Okay, well, today we're talking about the snowman.
Yeah. I just desperately want to sing like Ella Jones whenever you say that to me.
I desperately do not want to hear that.
No, you probably don't. I was about to just launch into it and then, yes,
No, no, it's
you're
a
right.
bad idea.
It really
Bad
is.
idea. Okay, now the snowman, like many people have watched it since we were very young, but it's quite a sad film, isn't it? There's a
Yeah,
sadness to it.
it absolutely is sad. I remember as a child absolutely loving it and feeling like we'd hit Christmas by the point that
Mm.
that comes on. But at the same time, going to bed feeling really, really like my heart was hurting.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
is a film with a running thread of grief and loss, isn't it? Which during Christmas, when people are setting the table, that can be quite triggering for grief. If you're at
It
a point where
absolutely
you think
is.
you're moving forward, and then there's Christmas, you're setting the table out of habit, you set that place, and then you're like, actually, they're not going to be there.
I think it's that it's end of year, isn't it, where everybody reflects back and remembers that year and potentially also remembers the losses and the grief associated with that, and it can really set people back at
Mm,
Christmas. And
yeah.
actually not just the Christmas where they lost somebody or the year that they lost somebody. I know I was reading through my Facebook this morning and there were a number of people saying, that they weren't really looking forward to Christmas. But they were referring to the fact that they hadn't looked forward to Christmas for years as a result of
Mm,
losing somebody who was Christmas to them. And I think that's
mm.
really interesting, is that for some people, for many, many years, and for some people for the rest of their lives, Christmas can actually be an incredibly sad point
Yeah,
for them.
yeah. And I think part of the problem, I mean, grief is something that you can't just switch it off like a light bulb. But part of the problem we have, particularly in England, is that we don't really talk about it.
Mm.
And our way of dealing with it is to push it away. And where I've seen healthy grief, if you like, is where round the Christmas table, people have talked about people that aren't round the table
Mm.
and told funny stories and talked about what they meant to them. And yeah, it is sad that they're not there, but they were all smiling as well,
Mm.
thinking about that person. And I know when I when I'm off, when I'm not on earth, it'll be nice to be remembered like that rather than my family being sad and upset. I'd rather they remember the good times.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody wants to leave this world and think that people are going to mourn them for years to come, remember them for years to come, absolutely, but to make themselves upset or sad or whatever, I don't think
Mm.
anybody would want that, really.
And I think the other thing that I remember my husband's grandmother saying, when long after her husband died, that people don't talk about him.
Mm.
They don't. They don't ask if she's okay. They don't ask. They avoid it, which makes it worse. Makes it a lot worse. I mean, someone that's been a huge part of your life for 50 odd years, and then suddenly people aren't talking about them.
Yeah.
That's really odd, isn't
It
it?
is. And I think different families deal with it in different ways, don't they? And individuals deal with it in different ways.
Mm,
We've I've lost my grandparents. I've lost my granddad a number of years ago. I lost my grand this year. And whilst I can joke about my granddad now, we talk often at Christmas about what he would have wanted and how he would have made Christmas about him, because that was just pretty much his way.
yeah,
Um, the grief associated with my gran, that is too raw and it's
yeah,
hurtful. It literally burns at the moment
yeah,
when, and so I can't talk about it. And I think that I think it's important though to be able to say to your family, to your friends or whatever, I just can't talk about it now, but I'd love to talk about it when I'm
Mm,
ready.
yeah.
But again, we find that really hard to articulate, don't we?
Yeah. And um, there's also the other side of it where when we've got someone close to us that we know is going to die,
Mm,
it's imminent, and that's something that I've been going through this year, which has been very difficult, knowing that this will be their last Christmas, and that's really difficult. And I did quite a bit of research on this to find out, being a reader, um, is my way of coping with things, and I was looking at anticipatory grief.
yeah.
And this is something where people don't know how to deal with it. And again, how they deal with it is pretend it's not happening and maybe not speak to that person because it's too painful.
Mm,
But what that person needs is you. And
mm,
what they need is probably normalcy. So in the summer, when I went to see my friend in England, I hesitated, and because I wasn't sure how to act. Could I be myself? Could I be jolly? And I was, and then he said something when the Prosecco was going round. He was like, oh, well, I haven't had a drink in 6 months under doctor's orders. And I said to him, oh, you must feel so much healthier. And there was this pause, and he was just laughing his head off, because I could do that with other people that might not have gone down well. But with him, he was like, thanks for that, Val.
yeah,
Thank you. And it was like, it was really good for people just to relax around him instead of cocking their head to one side going, are you all right?
yeah.
We just had a giggle, and he said it felt like a gift that he was given.
And I think that's it, isn't it? Life is a gift, and sometimes we forget that. And actually, our friendship is a gift, and that at Christmas, above all else, is what's really important, isn't it? It's being with
Mm,
family, it's being with friends, and being ourselves, our authentic selves with family and friends.
yeah.
Mm,
And I mean, I've made it a point of contacting him every few weeks. And instead of, I mean, what we used to go, oh, how are you doing? Kind of thing. How am I doing? I'm dying. I've got cancer. I've got stage 4 cancer. You don't want to say how you're doing.
mm,
But what I ask him is, how are you doing today?
mm,
And actually, some days he's got an up day, some days he's got a down day.
mm.
It's talking about that particular day rather than the whole thing. So that kind of helps him, he says. So yeah, it's a difficult one. It's something that people really struggle with. But if we're talking about gifts and Christmas, if you know this is somebody's last Christmas and you're spending time with them, crikey, that's a gift, isn't it? How many of us lose someone and didn't realise that was going to be it?
Yeah,
So you've got this time, tell them you love them, tell them all the things that you probably wouldn't normally say, you know?
absolutely. I think why wait until the funeral when that person isn't there to talk about how
Yeah,
wonderful they are and the impact that they've had? And if you know and you've got that opportunity, my gosh, tell them.
yeah, yeah. And likewise, if you have a friend or family member that has lost someone close to them and they're missing them,
Mm,
don't ignore it. Just say, tell me about them. If you're up to it, talk to me about them. What was it about them that you loved? What would they be doing right now if they were here? You
absolutely.
know, what would they moan about? Because it's the little things you remember, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It
Yeah.
is absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been the Coaching Collaborative, and we'll be back with the next day of Christmas.